Hello, sir, and thank you for joining us tonight on TVP World.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be back.
Now, concerning this latest visit of Vladimir Putin to North Korea, I don't think he was really banking on the fact that there could be a response from South Korea. Did Vladimir Putin not think this strategy out quite so well, in your opinion? Is he surprised by this, the fact that South Korea could send lethal weapons to Ukraine?
Well, this is a very interesting situation, and quite frankly, it requires a little bit of a look at the bigger picture. So, Vladimir Putin has made few opportunities to make a good strategic decision in the past, well, at least 2 years since he invaded Ukraine with his genocidal campaign. But what we need to understand about this situation is regarding the threat to either a larger world or to Ukraine or more of a threat to South Korea is that she and China is now the senior partner in a bromance between Russia and China. But it's also important to include the aspect that there's a hierarchy within the axis of evil, or what the new axis of evil would be considered. And that is Xi at the top, Putin next, the theocratic terrorist regime in Tehran, and of course now Kim Jong-un is finally made it to the big leagues, which is where he's always wanted to go. The way you framed it coming into this is that it is an important perspective as well. This is definitely a delicate situation, but at the end of the day, it comes down to whether or not the world in this new hierarchy, abetted by the hierarchy of the axis of evil, is willing, as the rules-based international order, to stand up to global aggression. And right now, the axis of evil lives on the Eurasian continent. And the other complicating factor is President Modi in India still supports Putin's evasion of Putin's sanctions by contributing to his oil exports and to, in a variety of ways, with price controls over grain to the rest of the world. Now, that's a mouthful, and this is a very short time for a very complicated topic.
No, of course.
Apologies if I got too soapbox.
No, we appreciate that, and we're going to ask you another question right off the bat here. You mentioned already this axis of evil, this throwback to what came about, and after I think the invasion of Iraq with President Bush, George W. Bush. Now, however you slice it, I want to move more into the peninsula here. And obviously, we saw those pictures, that orchestrated visit between Kim Jong-un and Putin. Very much, they didn't leave each other's side at all. You saw them together walking, then there was the car. So they very much wanted to keep the optics of this very, very close friends. But it's really, I think, in 24 years, the first time that Putin was actually there. I mean, he obviously is, in a way, it seems a step down for him. But I want to press you on China for a minute there, Paul. So, I mean, clearly Xi Jinping will look at this, and I can imagine that he's not too pleased what he's seeing. How is China going to react to this new kind of constellation right at his doorstep?
Well, publicly, he's going to show disdain and a great deal of concern, because right now China's economy is far less than stellar, to be honest, and quietly, he is supporting this bellicosity between Putin and KJU.
Is it a way for him to...
Mr. Putin's primary... I'm sorry. We have to remember that the primary, only functioning serious weapons system for the Russian army right now is this propaganda division. This is a show. This is a political stunt, is what we would call it in normal politics in any Western nation. Putin has made an endless stream in the last 2 years of large-scale threats that have gone unfulfilled against the West. This is a dog and pony show to try to demonstrate that they are working together. Xi supports that because at the end of the day, he's the primary benefactor. China desperately needs to not have a peninsula issue that inhibits his Belt and Road Initiative, which is the support of his China Dream strategy. And that is the most significant threat to the global rules-based international order.
I'm curious, just because we have also in the region, we just recently had, I think he's on his way back now, or almost on his way back now, Polish President Andrzej Duda also visiting Xi Jinping there. Very much with some observers looking at this, Poland and that strategy. I mean, if we're looking back at the 14+1, 17+1 format, rather, it started by, that kind of has been zombie initiative. It's been defunct now. Do you sense that that is sort of being revived by Duda's trip in China? Is there some kind of dream to have a bigger presence in Central and Eastern Europe? I'm just curious how that plays into this as well.
That's a perfect question and really insightful. So what the deal is China's FDI, foreign direct investment in Europe, especially in Great Britain, France, some of the northern states, Poland, Germany, has been intense up until roughly COVID. So Xi, like Putin, has not made a great deal of clever or brilliant strategic decisions. I'd rather say that they both have failed strategic vision when it comes to actually enacting their strategies. And what's important is to realize is that FDI that was overwhelming by the Chinese into Europe, Western Europe in particular, up until roughly COVID, is most particularly strong between around 2012 up to COVID, has decreased. I want to say last time I looked was about 70%. And that's a lot. So what's happening right now is everybody needs China and India both for manufacturing purposes, especially in the Western world. It's just more cost effective. We get products to market a lot less expensive because of Chinese and Indian manufacturing. But so all the Western nations still need that, and they need to have relationships with China. But they also are very quietly, and as Poland is leading the way a great deal with NATO right now, there's a definite, better defined force that is keeping Xi Jinping's aggression in check. So if you look at the disturbances around the world, Putin's used with Xi Jinping's quiet assistance, disruptions in Armenia, Central Africa, Gaza. Don't forget, Putin is now doing Xi Jinping's dirty work. Iran is doing the dirty work for Mr. Putin. And KJU is just basically becoming a supplier. And by the way, those artillery shells that they're shipping by the millions, they have an extremely high failure rate. So it's a lot bigger show than it is actual support from Mr. Putin.
Well, which kind of brings me back to where I started off. It seems like Vladimir Putin went to North Korea to have this dog and pony show, as you've described it for domestic consumption, both in North Korea and in Russia. But also, it seems like Vladimir Putin was counting on the fact that he was going to get more arms for his war effort against Ukraine. But at the same time, by signing this defense agreement, or this defense pact, if you will, that really was a step too far. And it seems that the backlash from South Korea was completely unexpected on Vladimir Putin's behalf. Do you think that this was properly thought through? Do you think Vladimir Putin knew that such consequences could be? Because if we look at South Korea and the amount of arms that they can potentially donate to Ukraine, it is very significant. It's not the same thing as what North Korea is providing currently Russia.
We have to be honest. I mean, your point is well taken. The point is, Mr. Putin does not make good strategic decisions. He does not think these things through. He does not get a lot of honest input from the people that. So in the U.S., we have a presidential daily briefing. Somebody walks in, talks to the president, gives them a complete lowdown on what's happening around the world and most significant threats in order to prioritize the president's attention that day. Mr. Putin gets that, but he only gets it in a form that doesn't challenge his worldview. And his worldview has easily, in the last 2 years, been extraordinarily dysfunctional and limited. So whether he made a bad decision or not, he probably believes he made a great decision. But then again, how would he expect the backlash if he wasn't getting all the information? So this has been coming. He knows this has been coming for 2 years. It's just mattered exclusively to the point. So really what the South Koreans are saying is they're throwing up this challenge as a deterrent. And don't forget, North Korea, what can they give Mr. Putin? They've been operating on 50s era Soviet equipment for years. I mean, for pretty much their entire last 50 or 60 years, at least. And so they don't have much to offer Mr. Putin.
Yeah. And we also know that there's already been some interesting sales and purchases by the Polish government of, I think, top-notch South Korean ordnance. So I think it is going to be more beneficial for the Ukrainians rather than for the Russians. Look, we'll have to close it there. Really interesting insights. Paul Cobaugh, thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me back. I'm delighted.